Hello, everyone, and welcome to Green Rapids Podcast.
Woo!
Perfect.
That was great.
That was on the money.
No, literally everybody who does this is out for a job. It's official.
Hi, everyone. My name is Ned Andre. I am the C4 Project Coordinator. C4 is an affectionate shortening of the Community Collaboration on Climate Change, which can be a mouthful or an email full. So a lot of people like to call it C4.
I would say more of an email full
That would
than
be an email
anything.
full.
It's an email full.
You do one of those emails that I'm like, oh, I had to type it out.
No, but it's definitely one of those, like, you remember it. So,
That's right.
yeah. And thank you for the work that you're doing in the city and getting involved. I think we're really excited to talk to you about that more than anything.
Hey, my privilege.
Yeah. So I think we'll just start at the top and work our way through. I don't know.
Yeah.
What got you into this work? So like Nancy and I mentioned before we started this, you were a teacher. So like how long were you a teacher for? And then like what made you kind of shift this way, I guess?
Yeah. I want to know what that transition was like.
Yeah, well, I was a teacher. I graduated from Calvin College with a history major, political science minor,
Okay.
and a teaching certificate. And I taught in the public schools for 30 years
Okay.
and then retired.
So you've been
Oh.
in this area like your entire life.
I'm born and raised in Grand Rapids, Michigan.
B
Okay.
and Ard.
Yep.
Wow.
St. Mary's Hospital down by the Grand River. So
Oh,
Wow.
local,
Sam
local.
Cooke.
Did
I
they-
was born on the river.
I feel like you should get a plaque or something. Like I've been here. That's very cool.
Yeah. Oh, that should be like an achievement that people could unlock. Like I've marked like, wait, I won't ask how old you are, but you could be like, I have like X amount of years.
Oh, you're an
Oh,
That's
expert.
been Grand
I've
Rapids.
been here. So, yeah, so in my teaching career in the social science field, I was teaching a lot of geography. And so as a teacher, of course, you're teaching the historical, the current, and then the future. What's going to happen in the future?
Right.
I didn't realize
And there was all this data and science and evidence coming out that human beings were having an impact, a significant and powerful impact on the environment, on the atmosphere, on
Yeah.
the planet.
Yeah.
And so I was an early adopter of, hey, we've got to be careful. Human consumption, the number of people on the planet can all spell disaster for all the other living things and
Yeah.
even become an existential threat for mankind.
Yeah.
So my first foray into climate justice was really educating my students and just saying, hey,
Oh,
You
so you
guys-
just brought it into the classroom?
did, so-
That's cool.
That is
Yeah.
Not enough
cool.
teachers are doing that out there.
yeah, so for many, many years, I just was educating youth about it.
Yeah. And then like that's so cool too because you must have been talking about this when it wasn't necessarily like a hot topic. It was just like something you're seeing, like you said you're seeing trends and you're teaching children about the differences in climate and you can't help but notice that.
That's exactly right. And so
Wow.
I became concerned. I just, they're talking about the end of the butterflies, the end of the frogs, the end of the
Yes.
wildebeest, the end of the
Yeah.
elephants. Hey, save the seals,
Totally.
save the Brazilian rainforest. We've
Mm-hmm.
got to stop doing this. And it was just, to me, I heard heard a clarion call that
Yeah.
we as human beings, every single one of us are responsible for this planet. And then I
Yes.
would be, I'm a big fan of cosmology as well. And if you ever remember when the astronauts would first go out into outer space and they get out to the moon and they turn and look out the other window and they see this tiny little Earth behind them in the vastness of space. And then they take these photographs back and we all came to the conclusion, this is it. We got one planet. The rest of
Yeah,
them are
right.
too far away to get to or
Like literally just like a
uninhabitable.
shift of perspective.
Yeah.
They just stay retired for very long before transitioning into C4 work, or were you just like, I'm done teaching, like let's go save this planet?
No, I retired and then I took a trip around the world.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Okay. Where did you go?
Yeah, give us like the lowdown.
Give us like a 5-minute like bit of like what you did where you went.
Okay. Well, the big ticket for me was I wanted to return to Africa. I wanted to turn to the motherland.
Okay.
And I'm half Dutch, half Nigerian.
Okay.
I wanted to trace my biological father's roots, trace my roots.
Was your dad like Nigerian culture Nigerian?
He was
Does he
from
know?
Nigeria.
Wow,
Came
so
to the
he
United
knew,
States.
You know exactly where your roots come from?
Nope. I have. There's a mystery involved in that. Neither he nor my biological mother could care for us. So.
Oh, okay.
I was searching for my long lost father.
So you were adopted.
Correct.
But you knew that you came from people who originated from these spaces.
That's right.
Ned, your story keeps getting cooler, and we're only
a couple minutes
it's deep. So what I did was
So you went to Africa, the motherland.
Yep, I went to my adoption file, and I searched for every clue possible, and then I went to the Netherlands, and then I went to Nigeria, and I didn't just want to visit Nigeria, vacation in Nigeria. I wanted to live in Nigeria, so I stayed for 75 days.
What?
Yep, I had a host family, and just had the most incredible physical, spiritual, emotional, intellectual journey of a lifetime.
No kidding. Can I ask how old you were when you did that?
I was 53.
That's so cool.
That's super cool.
No, because you've had so many experiences. Like, you've lived into the person that you are, and then you get to have this like next level experience when you're so sure. And
it was amazing. But so I was over there for 75 days. I was in the big city of Lagos, 20 million Nigerians there. Was in the capital city. Maybe there's 4 million Nigerians there. And then I found a man that could have been my birth father.
Oh.
And I went to...
How does one go about someone who could probably be your birth father?
I had this whole host of clues.
Nigeria is huge, right?
It is, but I had enough information. I had a one-paragraph kind of biography in my file.
Oh.
And I took that information and all the clues that were in there, and we don't have time for all the details, but I found a man who could have been. So I went to a little town in Calabar. Maybe there's 150,000 people there.
Okay.
And so I saw the whole country and found this gentleman. It was real close, it seemed like, but then the DNA test came back and said he was not my biological father.
Dang.
But the odds with the name and everything, like, you could have potentially been related at some point down the line, or, just names travel like that. So.
Yeah, what was more the circumstances of his life, and long story short, but had an incredible adventure in Nigeria. But by this time, I was retired, and I was in community. So after I retired, I started swimming in the grassroots, I like to say, and I had climate change, it was still in my heart and on my mind. And even when I went on this trip around the world, I witnessed it with my own eyes. All the climate justice issues, environmental justice issues.
Probably more pronounced in some countries across the ocean, right?
Oh, yeah. So much more.
Well, even in Nigeria, people say, oh, the weather is so unusual. It's hotter than it has been. Or why is the rain acting so funny? I was there kind of in rainy season, and they weren't getting some of the continual steady rainfall that they were getting. They were going many, many days without rain, and then suddenly getting all the rain that they get over 12 days. They get it all in one storm. And
right, which causes flooding as well, right?
That's right.
So you're going from drought to flood. It's like...
Yep, and I was in Lagos. I was on the islands, which is... I was on Ikoyi Island, and it was all land that had been reclaimed from the sea. So when you think about the Netherlands and the lowland lands that were reclaimed from the sea, or Lagos or other, there are a lot of island nations in the Pacific. So I was literally, after one of the big rainstorms, I was trapped in my home for about 12 hours because I couldn't get out with flood water. And 10 years from now, 20 years from now, that whole part of Nigeria, Ikoyi Island,
it's probably going to be underwater because
Lagos
of the
Island.
Rising sea levels.
Yep.
Gosh, that's so scary to put it. Because, I guess it's one thing to think of it in the abstract of, places you haven't been to or never experienced. But, you've been there and you've experienced it. So then you're like, oh, shoot, this is not going to be here for much longer.
That's exactly right.
Yikes.
Oh, my goodness.
And then environmentally, single-use plastics. So even here in Grand Rapids, one of the things you'll know about trash, there's equity issues in trash. So, all you need to do is gather up your stuff and put it in a blue bin, and they'll pick it up. And there are a lot of people that are struggling to pay the gas bill, the light bill, and the rent. And then to have this, even though it doesn't sound like much, an $8 tipping fee for a little canister, they can't afford it. Same is true in Nigeria. So,
well, and I was literally going to say, the frontline communities face this, and in other countries, the frontline communities face the impacts of what we're doing here at home. So like it's so much further than like the trash outside of your house. It's like the entire trash of states being sent over to these areas and into the ocean, which impacts their lives at a rate that we can't even process.
Yeah, take fast fashion, for example, where they would say...
let's hear it, Ned, because it's one of my least favorite things.
Yeah, I'm gonna get this single-use item, probably made in China or somewhere like that, out of a synthetic material, which is an oil-based product. So if you're using any polyesters, nylons, any of these, that's all oil-based material.
Right.
Fossil fuels.
Yep.
And then you buy it, it's cheap, you wear it a few times, and then you toss it. And like you just said, they're shipping entire cargo vessels with container after container. And they think, hey, we could just get rid of this stuff in the Atacama Desert in Chile.
Right.
No, but the trash was an equity issue. So, even here, you got a public waste basket here and there. One thing that really disappointed me about my visit to Nigeria was that single-use plastic is just everywhere on the ground. Use it, dump it. So it was rainy season. I went to this really beautiful restaurant on the river, and the night before we were going to go, it had rained quite heavily. And then the next day we got up, we went. My host family was saying, we're going to have this wonderful time on the river, this beautiful restaurant, exotic location, incredible scenery. And we get there, and the entire river is one mat of single-use plastics because all, the rainwater just washes all that trash. The streets were now clear.
That probably all washes out into the ocean, too,
it goes down into the open air waste system. They don't have underground piping and all this stuff. Everything just comes out of your house and it goes into a big trough along the road, which then goes to the river. And it was unbelievable.
Oh gosh, and then that probably all leads out to the ocean, probably at some point.
It does lead out to the ocean.
All rivers lead to larger bodies of water. So no matter what, it's going somewhere, and we pretend like it's a not. I mean, you see it travel, and you're like, okay, off it goes. But
there I was on this, international trip, and saying people are talking about the weird weather and climate.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at all these consumption problems, fossil fuels. And then when I came back from my trip around the world, I just was swimming in the grassroots, and I got to volunteering with a whole host of community. I was going to marches. And
that's how I want to spend my retirement, too.
Yeah, going to marches.
Well, because you couldn't turn it off. Like, after you see something, like, truly, or, like, it's in front of your face.
That's right. I got to do something. And educating the youth was great, but I need to take action.
Yeah.
And I was kind of in that action mode, and I had been so widely known in the community that a group of people came to me and said, hey, there's this position that's up at the Community Collaboration for Climate Change. They've got a RFP out for a project coordinator. You should apply. And I read through the RFP, and I thought I could get on board with this mission. And that's what brought me to the Community Collaboration on Climate Change.
Wow, that's so exciting. Can we clap for that?
Yeah. Yay, Ned. I mean, but what a great perspective to have, not only for, like, the climate justice scene in Grand Rapids, but for C4 as an organization, like, for you to have that scope. I think sometimes we really, like, I do want to stress how important it is to take care of frontline communities in this city, but frontline goes so much further than we realize. And, like, if we don't have the tough discussions about other people in other countries dealing with these issues, then we don't even start to talk about, like, the butt of the issue.
You're absolutely right.
So, like, I really appreciate you not only for, like, taking time to go back to your roots and having that spiritual journey, but, like, to see those, to draw those parallels. Those dots. So many people will travel to other countries and see those things and come home and still buy fast fashion and still do everything the way that they do. And it's so important that we talk about the truths of that. Dang, dude. Mic drop. We're done. 15 minutes in. Ned's just told the story of a lifetime.
I'm just getting started.
No, you
I'm
definitely
richer and
are.
deeper
No,
than that.
we definitely are. So yeah, how long has C4 been around then? Like, did you start with the beginning of C4 or?
Nope.
Or was it already there?
Nope, I was completely unaware of C4. It goes way back, a decade or more, to the CSP, the Community Sustainability Project.
Okay.
I think it's called.
But who was that put
that
together
was
by?
primarily came out of academia. So all the colleges had sustainability. Professors talking about we got to do something, and we need some way to collaborate on a larger scale, city, county, regional. So the CSP formed, did a lot of good work, and then kind of faded, diminished.
That's sad. I would have loved to see what it would still do now.
Well, it kind of evolved in some ways. It evolved into C4.
Okay.
So those people were
Change
like,
gears a little bit.
yeah, they were kind of like, hey, CSP's done its part, but we need to now get out of the intellectual and the conversation, and we need to take action. And so we need an action-oriented group. Group of thinkers got together and said, hey, we could start the community collaboration on climate change. Really kind of came out of the Office of Sustainability at the City of Grand Rapids.
I was going to say, I heard that was like your birthplace.
Yeah, Allison Sutter was a really powerful driving force there. She's currently in that office. And really the problem that they identified when the CSP was really studying and looking at the issue was that the people who contribute the least to the climate justice issues, climate change and environmental issues, they get impacted first. And they get impacted worse.
Yeah.
And so that's an injustice.
That is an injustice.
Totally.
They wanted to say, how could we bring the BIPOC community to the table? Because it's Black, Indigenous, people of color who are facing these traumas. So they just did very intentional work to build something different than had been built before. So they put on paper a plan for a 3-year pilot of the community collaboration on climate change and started seating a board, and they wanted a BIPOC board. So C4 is incredible. We've got 23 board members, and we're 60% BIPOC, and we are represented Black, people of color. We have had Indigenous representation. We're currently looking for an Indigenous representative for the leadership team.
If you're Indigenous and you're listening to this, and you're interested in fighting for the climate, please apply.
No,
Absolutely.
please apply, but also because we need Indigenous voices being heard, and at
they're, chronically
beginning of
underrepresented.
these changes, I want to hear almost exclusively what Indigenous people have to say, because they have been most affected by this in our country.
Yeah. What an incredible contribution they've made. I've learned so much.
Totally.
As a history teacher, I did talk about the Native Americans, and there's Native American history in my course, but I learned so much coming at it from this climate justice perspective. So, number one, C4, we start with land acknowledgement. We acknowledge that this land was taken from the Anishinaabe people, people of the 3 fires, the Ojibwa, the Odawa, and the Potawatomi. So we recognize that this was their land. They lived here. Took care of the land. They stewarded the land.
They took care of the Grand River that runs from Grand Rapids all the way to beyond Grand Rapids, but from our city all the way to Grand Haven.
That's right.
And they used it for treaties, and they used it for safety and to transport things. Like it was a huge part of their infrastructure.
Yeah.
That's right. I was just at the My Healthy Climate Plan conference in Detroit this spring.
Nice.
Governor Whitmer's My Healthy Climate Plan.
Yeah.
And there was a panel led by one of the tribal chieftains. I can't recall his name or tribe at the moment, but he had such an incredible story about the Native American people when the colonists got to Michigan. Michigan had about 95% tree cover.
Yeah.
And the colonists, and even myself, having been influenced by the colonial way of thinking, they're like, oh, look at God's good hand. This place is a Garden of Eden. Yeah. Plants and animals and all these resources. It's amazing.
That's what we call the white gaze.
That's that white gaze.
Well, the manifest destiny.
Yeah, manifest destiny. All these historical.
We just talked about this.
But when you decolonize your mind, you find out this Michigan wasn't a Garden of Eden just by God's good hand. Now, of course, God played his part.
Right.
But so too did the Native Americans, who had been
course.
shepherding the forests and using controlled burns and planting and moving seeds and all these incredible things.
Ned, it's like they missed all of the people that were next to the animals and food
Yeah.
and everything that was already here.
That's exactly right.
Like, yeah, there's a reason why.
Yeah.
So
There's people here. That's why.
yeah, and this tribal chieftain really helped give a story about the mindset of the Native American in that they would go into the water and they would make the conditions right for fish. They would help create conditions
really?
for fish, which would attract fish, and then they saw the fish as equal spiritual beings. They harvested only as many fish as they needed, and then when they captured the fish, they sing for the fish. They dance
Of
with
course.
the fish. They pray
Respect
with the
its
fish.
life.
And they respect its life. And this story that he told, it was just so dramatically different than our Western way of thinking, which
Yeah.
even for all the justice issues that I've got and hold in my heart, for all the things, I still have a kind of a colonized mind. And
I mean,
Yeah.
so do I. It's
We all
okay.
do. I mean, we were
have to
born and raised
decolonize.
Being
That's right.
Being nerd into colonialism.
That's so true. But what a great unlearning process,
Yes.
right? Like that's all we can do is unlearn and relearn and give ourselves credit for like where we're at. And I think the three of us deserve a little bit of credit.
Well,
for this
absolutely.
conversation.
I'm happy to be in the room with the two of you who are climate
Oh.
justice leaders and environmental justice leaders right here in the city of Grand Rapids.
We're trying.
It's been interesting.
So C4 really roots itself there on that land acknowledgement and then says we need to bring Black and Indigenous and people of color like Latinos and Asians but then hey, let's bring the youth in, they're marginalized. Let's bring the disabled in, they're marginalized. Let's bring in the unhoused. I mean, because all of these issues ultimately become injustices to people. So imagine being unhoused in Grand Rapids near downtown on pretty much a slab of tarmac, which is heating up like a pancake griddle, and you don't have shelter. You
Right.
don't have housing. You don't have access to air conditioning. And
even like in the winter too. Winter here can be brutal.
I'm gonna be honest. I am likely more better off than some people who might live in the same neighborhood that I am, as far as like where the type of job that I've been able to receive, or maybe like the services that I've been able to receive, or the resources that I've had, or the list can go on. But I will tell you, brutal winters and really brutal summers. I was just talking to Nancy about this. I'm probably either going to have to move apartments or get a second window unit because how hot it is in my apartment.
Yeah.
And really the difference in price is going to be me paying for all of that extra energy to run this other thing, because it is really hot. And the only way to get my heat in the winter is from, and everybody in my life hates this, it's a gas burner that has fire, and then it blows air onto that. And this is the reality that not only I am, I'm sure a number of my neighbors are, at least 3 of them, because we live in the same apartment complex. And this is not to take over this conversation with my, oh, woe is me. It's just, it's the reality
fits right in.
of living in the 07 area code.
That's right.
This is the reality of a lot of people. And I've chosen to live there, 1, because it was in my financial scope too. But then 2, just because, I mean, it worked. I'm a single woman and I can live on my own, but like how many families are subjected to this?
Yeah, you touch on
kids and everything.
yeah, you touch on such a powerful point in that in the city of Grand Rapids, energy burden. There's a tremendous injustice in that there's this enormous number of BIPOC individuals who are renters, and the landlord, he's got that same old furnace in his basement that he's had for 30, 40, 50 years, because guess
kidding.
what? He loves that furnace. He bought it all those years ago, and it's
It
still
was
chugging
made to
away.
last.
It was made to last.
Away.
But it's 40, 50, 60%
Right.
efficiency at best.
At best.
And so, but again, the landlord doesn't have to worry because you're passing the cost on to the individual, the renter.
Totally.
And so now we have renters in Grand Rapids who are paying 20, 30, 40% of their gross income on gas and electric, summer and winter. Because to your point, in the summer it's so hot, you got to get your window units in, and
There's no question. I'm literally thinking about getting a second one.
yeah,
And I'm a single person.
yep.
I mean, I got cats.
And then there you are, the energy meter's ticking as you're consuming electricity, which now goes down the line to mean, We need coal, nuclear, gas, all of these means of production. We don't have enough solar. We don't have enough renewables yet, moving in that direction. But the more I've studied this issue working with C4, the bigger the problem becomes. But I do believe there are solutions on the horizon.
Absolutely.
Let's hope so. Yeah, because then like another thing with the houses too is that like for renters you can't just like be like, oh, I'm just gonna insulate my house better.
That's right.
Then it's like you can't do anything like that to your property.
It is also not my responsibility to worry about these things. Like, I should be worrying about where I choose to live, right? That is more or less up to me to a certain extent. But it shouldn't be up to me to make sure that I have a more efficient home as a renter. That should be something that's like written into the code of renting a home to people.
And that's the mind shift that C4 wants to bring.
It is, yeah.
That it's not just the renter's responsibility or the landlords, because landlords have some challenges too. That when you say, hey, why don't you just drop 40 grand into getting a new, because
BRB.
Ultimately what we need to do in this city and this country, we need electrification, total electrification, where you get rid of all natural gas and oils and coals and all of that in the home. And you go to electric appliances, and so the hot water heater, the furnace, the air conditioner, washing machine, dishwasher, dryer, everything's electric. But in order to do it properly, we need to upgrade electrical panels.
It's the homes.
Also, where electricity comes from too, because right now if we all go electric, like we're still getting our energy from consumers' energy, who is still making dirty electricity.
That's right.
So I've heard.
There's layer. It's a layer like an onion. Like
yes, it is. Yes, it is.
So with that being said, though, there are a lot of programs that C4 is pushing for in the city to implement so that we can get electrification, so that the cost for landlords might not increase too much, because if a landlord has to pay another $5,000 to $40,000 in repairs or in upgrades, that's going to raise my rent, no doubt about it. And they're not going to ask anybody if that's okay to do. They're just going to do it.
That's right. Yeah, so there's a real big rethink going on now about weatherization and how, thankfully, the Investment, Infrastructure, and Job Act that passed under Biden and the Inflation Reduction Act.
Yeah, right.
Okay, I heard more about the IRA.
Yep, but both bills have a lot of line items in them that will help with weatherization of homes, renewable energy, this whole host of things that need to be done in this country.
Yeah.
So C4 is looking to tap into those resources. Got some cool stuff coming up. C4 started with hyper-local projects. Our ambassadors.
I was just going to ask you about them.
Oh, should I have your next question? Like, what is the structure of C4?
That's
good.
That's good. C4's got we've got 23 leadership team directors, and then there's one project coordinator in myself, and then one of the goals of C4 is to bring the frontline community to the table. So we want to bring the BIPOC community to the table of decision making. We want to give them resources, and then we want to activate them out in the community. So our ambassadors, when they come on board, they go through a climate justice leadership training program. Once there's a training program, and then when they're up to speed, then you're a trainer. You're one of the trainers.
Okay. Dang it. All right. I just did a training
disclosure, Erica is part of the leadership team.
I am part of the leadership team.
That is good for full disclosure. She just recently became a leadership team director with the Community Collaboration on Climate Change. Yeah,
okay,
congratulations.
But the ambassadors,
so we brought in, so right now we have 14 frontline community members who, they're all over the city of Grand Rapids, and they're from the BIPOC community. They've been through the leadership training program, and now they're going out into the city to organize hyperlocal climate justice solutions, whereby C4, we went out, we got a grant, got a good sizable chunk of money. Rather than C4 saying, hey, we see your problems, we think we can create a solution for you, and we're going to design a program, and we're going to benefit from it, and we're going to do all this stuff too.
Well, we consider the white savior modus operandi.
Yeah, that's what it is.
It's too exciting.
C4 said, no, we're going to start from the bottom, which is really the top. We're going to go to the people, and we're going to find the front line.
Thank you for saying that.
And we're going to resource these individuals, equip them, prepare them, and then say, you go out and you find out what you and your neighbors need to do in your neighborhood.
Nice.
Could be a parking lot that needs to be peeled up, or the creek that runs behind the house, maybe that needs to be cleaned up, or kids could be educated. They choose the solution that's right for the, hey, we don't have any trees on this western facing street and we're getting crushed by the sun every night. We need to get trees in here, or community gardens, or resilience hubs, or whatever they want to do. And we resource them with a $5,000 mini grant. So yeah, we've got some really cool stuff going on in the city right now.
And how much easier to have a conversation with someone who is like, hey, I'm your neighbor and I'm an ambassador.
That's right.
What do you have going on?
Yeah.
You know, or someone you see as like a regular because they come into a shop, because C4 has people not specific to neighborhoods, but we also attempt to like get people in different regions of Grand Rapids, correct?
That's right. Yep. We try to be all over the city. So we've got all 4 quadrants, northeast,
I was
southwest.
going to ask if you were in all the quadrants.
Yep.
Okay.
We're in all 4 quadrants.
Covering bases.
Yep. And just really cool, creative stuff coming out. You know, for example, we partner with Boston Square Church to put in a pocket forest.
Pocket forest.
So we're going to be planting trees in a kind of a community green space that will create shade and a space for the neighbors and the church and everybody to socialize. And we're getting rid of the Kentucky bluegrass. We're putting in Michigan native species so that we want Michigan native plants. We want flowering plants that help pollinators.
Music to my ears.
Yep, we're going to do all of this kind of stuff over there.
Love me some natives.
Each one of the other ambassadors have their own individual projects that they're doing. They've got really exciting plans. And then just recently we entered into a partnership with Friends of Grand Rapids Parks.
Oh, I didn't hear about that. That's cool.
Yeah, it's brand new. We're co-writing a grant right now. We're going to help them plant 15,000 trees in the city of Grand
I was
Rapids.
going to say that's still tree related, yeah.
Yeah.
I would be surprised if it wasn't tree related with its Friends of Grand Rapids Park. Planting trees is like their jam.
I didn't know that. I mean, I hear them all over the place.
Yeah, 10,000 trees along the right of way, 5,000 trees for giveaway to the residents on private property.
Oh, wow.
But furthermore, really getting into the urban forests of Grand Rapids, because there's 600 acres of urban forest in Grand Rapids.
Yeah.
Little pockets all around.
Yeah.
And many of them are connected to Grand Rapids parks. And some of them are overgrown and underutilized.
Not with native species.
We got to get the invasive species out of there. And so there's a whole movement going in this grant to clean up the urban forests, have the people do it. We resource the people in the neighborhoods around that forest to do it, and then build trails.
Feels good.
For biking and hiking, connecting trails all through the city. It's going to be amazing.
That sounds, I'm excited to see.
Literally amazing.
I'm happy to volunteer.
And it feels better than just like picking up trash in your neighborhood, although that's important to do.
But it gets
that's a daunting task.
Yeah.
But like to create a park for your neighborhood, I think a lot of people are going to want to jump on board.
Yeah,
well, this tree canopy is so bad, and when you look at the historical red line maps in Grand Rapids, and then you look at tree canopy maps in Grand Rapids, you can literally see that the lack of investment wasn't just in the people and the housing, it was in the trees. If you drive to a nice neighborhood somewhere, guess what? You have this beautiful tree-lined road where the trees were planted 30, 40 years ago. Big, beautiful. You go down streets in my neighborhood, and it's no trees. We've got this heat island effect that's really going to be... people are going to struggle with heat this summer. You'll feel it.
Oh, we're feeling it already. What you mean?
I mean, take a trip down, Franklin? Just slowly go until you start to hit East Grand Rapids, and you will just see the difference that you're talking about. You'll feel the difference that you're talking about. And we talk about air quality, right? Yeah. We talk about having asthma and all of those things, and that being an issue in younger and in frontline and BIPOC communities. And that has to be related to each other. It
plays a factor. And, air quality is a big deal for C4.
Huge.
So
it is huge. We've
got a partnership with Just Air. Are you familiar with Just Air?
Yeah.
Darren Riley.
We want to get more. We want to know more about Just Air, but go on.
Yeah, we've got a partnership with Just Air, and currently we are in a community engagement they're putting 7 new air quality monitors in the 49507 area code.
Oh, that's
Very
so
cool.
great.
So those are just public, out there constantly monitoring, or how does that work?
Okay, so currently I believe there are 25 monitors up in the city of Grand Rapids, 20 to 30, somewhere in that range. But they're in the 49503 and they're moving outward, and so now we want to connect the 49507 neighborhood.
Well,
So
why would they have one there, Ned?
Well, because that's a historically redline community, and we want to know.
There might be a reason why they haven't put one there, you know? Collecting that data might be a little bit too much for people to handle.
It could be, but now we're going to put them up.
We're ready for it.
Yep, Just Air's putting them in, and
That's exciting.
C4 is helping to do the community engagement and get the neighbors out, because once you get these monitors up, then you can translate the information onto a dashboard, an app on your phone.
Oh.
You can pull up this app. You can get alerts from this app.
I do get the text alerts from Just Air.
Yeah, you signed up, I remember. So yeah, you get the text alert and it says, hey, the air quality by one of the monitors is low. You can take a look. Somebody with a family, you talked about emphysema or asthma or COPD or any of these breathing.
Yeah.
What's the air quality like today? And should I stay indoors? Should I wear a mask when I'm out and about? Should I get out of town for a few days?
And I want to add too that like air quality equals so much more than just your breathing.
That's right.
That relates to your heart. It relates to your blood. And if your blood isn't properly moving, that is going to impact your entire system.
Yeah.
And so people see impacts from this so much further than I can't breathe. It's
Yeah.
I literally can't, my heart's not working properly. And
That's
like,
right.
so I think this is great. One, to have people be like, hey, no, we need to do better. But also like, it just gives reason for, I don't know, I feel like it validates things. Sometimes when people talk about like, hey, our neighborhood has asthma at a higher rate, they're like, yeah, we got it.
That's right.
But it's like, no, air quality. We can prove why.
That's
Yeah.
right. So all these partnerships that C4 is getting into, take, for example, the city of Grand Rapids. We do some work with them in that they're designing a climate action and adaptation plan. Very popular now that cities come up with these kind of plans and make them resident driven.
Yeah.
C4 is helping with the community engagement on the CAP.
Oh.
Yep,
Yes,
climate
I say that
action
one
and
now, that's a
adaptation
CAP.
plan. Climate change is real. Climate change is here. Those who say, well, we'll just do a few things and things are going to go back the way they used to be. Nope. Well, we can't say never, but not for a long time.
Not for a while.
And so we have to adapt to the climate as it is. Of course, we want to try to halt it, arrest climate change right now so that it doesn't get worse, and then adapt to things the way things are. So C4 has got lots of plans for, in the future, taking this climate action adaptation plan. Number one, educating the general population about climate change and climate justice issues. Two, what do you do? How do you take action? What can you do as an individual? What can we do as a city? We have a lot of advocacy with the city. Let's reduce our greenhouse gas emissions. There's just a lot of different things that cities can do and that the residents of cities can do. But we want to be ready. We want to have a plan for climate action and adaptation.
Yeah.
There's so many pieces.
There's so many pieces. So Eric and I have only been doing this work for, what is it, like 7-ish months now?
Yeah, officially. It sounds so,
yeah.
It's so young when you say it, but it is. Yeah.
But I've enjoyed watching you guys work. You guys have been amazing
we're
in the
growing
7 months
quickly.
that
We
you...
are growing.
Thank you for saying that.
But so, I've only seen like about that much of C4 and like that journey. But what are some milestones that you've reached since C4 started and up until like this point?
Well, number one, we've really made an impact in the BIPOC community. A lot of folks that just were never even... When survival is your number one issue, people
Trust, we know.
they're not thinking much about climate change and, all the environmental issues and such. We've done a nice job of being able to draw the intersection of climate justice, environmental justice, and these issues, bringing people to the table. So that's one. It's the educational piece, and then the activation of residents is big.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a milestone. And then secondly, C4 had immediate impact when I did a presentation at a neighborhood, at the Neighborhood Association Collaborative. There are 31 neighborhoods in Grand Rapids, and I did a presentation about C4, what we're doing, how we're trying to do it. So we put that information out into the neighborhood network. Not a week or two later, a neighborhood association gets a call from a neighbor. Hey, I live just outside of Grand Rapids, right next to your neighborhood, and I need help. And that's what they do. Neighborhood associations help people. Well, you're not one of our constituents, but we'd be happy to help anyway. What's going on? Hey, the city next door, they want to put in a new development on the Grand River. And all the neighbors in this neighborhood, we walk our dogs, we go down by the creek, which leads to the river, and we enjoy this green space. And they're going to put in a 20-acre development. They're going to cut down. The neighbors went out, and the neighbors counted. There were 200 trees that
More
were going to be
copy and
impacted.
pasted cookie cutter houses. What?
And when
They're not made efficiently
they're
either,
not
or
made
to
efficiently.
last. I
All
call
of
them
it.
pop-up homes. Is
Yep.
exactly what I call
Yep.
them. Nothing that goes up in 3 months I can trust to live in for 30 plus years.
That's right. So this
can't.
neighbor calls the neighborhood association who says, I just heard a presentation from C4. You should call the project coordinator. They call me, and I say, oh, well, here's a couple things you need to think about. You need to go to your city commission. You need to ask them, have you done an environmental study? Have you done a watershed study? Have you done any of these kind of studies that, and he was like, that's a fantastic idea. And then he went out and he did some homework and he went to his city council. And lo and behold, they had not done any of these environmental things, only to find when they did that this little tributary down to the Grand River, there's certain insects and frogs and different things in there and different wildlife. And
Yeah.
the whole project was put on hold, hopefully permanently, because
That's great, though, because they were
Yeah.
like, hey, there's these species here that we need to protect, right?
yeah, so C4 saved 200 trees and a whole habitat down by the Grand
Handful
River
of froggies.
just by disseminating information.
Yeah.
And that's the part of it that I love, is getting people who might not have this information, but also closer to the ones who are facing these issues. Because if they don't know who to talk to, or if you're not hearing this information, then you're not giving this information to your people.
Right.
Yeah,
And if one person knows about it and they're like, hey, like, I was able to put a pause on this project, and they can
Yeah.
spread that to their friends, and hopefully, it could
Yeah.
become like a thing.
All my people know about what I do for
It's
work.
like me and my homies, hey, cookie cutter houses.
another milestone that I would lift up would be, because we are BIPOC and we have this indigenous connection, we've been working with Ron Yob and the little band of Ottawa Indians
Okay.
and trying to support them. We give moral support for their search for federal recognition. We want to make sure that people recognize that there's still a tribe that hasn't been recognized, even though there was a treaty signed by the
Crazy.
United States government. It's all in writing.
So the government's just kind of like, they're extinct. Like, are they just like not recognizing them in that way?
They've been lifting this treaty up and said, hey, there's a group of people here, a little band of Ottawa Indians, and we have this treaty. It's signed by the U.S. government, recognizes us as a federal sovereign nation.
Oh.
There are 12 currently there are 12 sovereign nations in Michigan, and they're looking to be the 13th.
Okay.
And so we
My favorite number.
just trying to advocate for them, write letters of support, talk to local politicians,
How
talk to
strange that you
federal
need anything
politicians.
more than the recognition you already have for them to implement
Yeah, it's
that
like they
as
have the
something that's
paper.
legitimate.
Yeah.
Like, is it not enough to go up to someone and say, hey, I'm Native, I'm Indigenous, can I get the recognition that I feel I deserve? Like,
Yeah.
it should just be like, yes, what else can I do for you?
Well,
Yes, and.
Yeah, so I sat down and I read the treaty, and
Yeah.
it took place in Chicago, because that was they controlled this territory, which was it even a state yet?
Right? Well,
But
Wild.
as they eyed this land that they were going to take, there was this treaty, and it struck me that one of the officiants who witnessed the signing of the treaty was a man named Jacob Varnum, and then lo and behold, I'm like, Varnum.
that's very
sounds
familiar.
That
familiar.
sounds very familiar.
You
and
know what?
I know you saw me like,
I look at the map in the treaty, and then there's this piece of land that's carved out and set aside for some of the, the natives got this, that, and the other, but the government officials often did quite well during these treaties as well.
oh,
Yeah.
they paid themselves a cut.
So,
The reason why Varnum is familiar is because his name's slapped on a building in Grand Rapids.
on a major piece of land
Huge
down by the
piece.
Grand River. Yeah.
Literally smack dab in. You can't
Maybe
miss
it's
the
coincidental.
building.
Maybe it's coincidental. I haven't done the due diligence
There's
to trace it all the way back.
potential that it is.
There's a potential that this
That's a
officiant
big potential, though.
who was in the U.S. government got a nice chunk of land.
How many Varnums do you
I
know?
had to do like a little follow.
It's not a very familiar name.
Yeah, that's right. So these kind of connections, historical injustices, a tribal community that can't be recognized. C4 is about all these kind of things. And you say, well, what does that have to do with climate change? There's an intersection between climate justice, environmental justice, and even social justice, as we're speaking of here. And so C4 is just all about justice and what can we do to help the marginalized folks in society that are suffering from climate change.
Yeah.
Wow, I dig that, Shizzle.
Well, what can we do to get back to where we were before colonialism and before our ideals and that like that mindset came about?
Yeah. Another question we have is, what's your vision for like the future of C4? Like, where do you see it going?
C4 is
we
currently.
talked about the past.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Past, present, and
Notice
in the future. I did. C4 is a 3-year pilot, so the grant dollars that we received were to be consumed and used in 3 years. And then in the final 6 months of the project, there's an evaluation period that goes through how did C4 do? Did we meet the deliverables? Did it have value? Should it continue on? Should it should they pilot again for another few years? Should they dissolve? Should they become a 501c3? There's this internal evaluation that will take place.
Oh, so what is C4 right now?
It's a pilot. We are a community-based organization.
Okay.
So
it's not a nonprofit,
pilot
is what he's saying.
Yeah, we are not a nonprofit. We are, in fact, in order to receive grant dollars from the nonprofit world, we had to form fiduciary relationships. That's what community-based organizations have to do. There's a whole
we forget that we're not talking just to each other sometimes.
That's right. There's this whole myriad of 501c3s in the city of Grand Rapids, and C4 was very intentional and said, let's find black and brown 501c3s. So Michigan Black Expo Incorporated is one of the fiduciary partners of C4.
You have more than one?
We do.
Does that get messy?
It doesn't. So far, so good.
Okay.
Yep.
That's
so
awesome.
we've deposited a good bit of the grant dollars with Michigan Black Expo, and then the Hispanic Center of West Michigan is the other fiduciary. So
you have two?
we do have two.
That's
And keeping it in-house.
Yep.
Keeping it as
BIPOC.
brown as possible.
Yep, absolutely.
I love that.
So one of the other pieces there is just the equity. C4 said equity is at the heart of what we're doing. And so these Hispanic and Black nonprofits have been underutilized for many, many years. And so C4 said, let's build in a 15% administrative fee. So when we receive the dollars from the founders or funders, an administrative fee of 15% goes to the fiduciaries.
Oh, okay.
So they receive those dollars, and then that's their
boosting that local economy.
Yeah, then they get an opportunity. We build capacity within those organizations.
Okay.
Yeah. You build relationships.
It's a nice way to get back.
And it's easier too, right? Like, of course I'm going to support you. You're supporting me. Like, it all makes sense, and it keeps each other afloat because you wouldn't be there without each other. I love that.
That's right.
I love that. Okay, but you didn't say what you want to do for the next, 5 or 10 years or something.
Oh my goodness.
Oh wait, no, that's because it's a 3-year thing.
What
would you like
I've
for it
seen-
to be after the evaluation period?
Just what I've seen, C4
Dreams.
is highly effective. C4 is meeting all of its deliverables and exceeding beyond the deliverables. And so it's well positioned to become its own entity moving forward.
Okay.
And there's just some really incredible stuff happening. You know, at the federal level, you've got the Justice 40 initiative or executive order by President Biden.
Yeah.
So those two bills that I talked about, the IIJA and the IRA, these billions of dollars that are going to flow, 40% of those dollars are supposed to benefit the BIPOC community. And so having community-based organizations like C4, we're in a position to be helpful.
Is it terrible that part of me is just like, only 40%?
Yeah.
Go on.
If you go back to affirmative action, that was 10%.
Oh, I was going to say, I think that if we complain about 40, they're going to take it back.
You're right. Oh, that's so terrible.
I'm kidding.
But it's
totally
really
kidding.
powerful. So I see C4 being highly effective and becoming its own entity, moving forward, and just really the good. It's designed. C4 is designed as a template. You could have this kind of a group in any community where you have a lot of frontline folks that are in the BIPOC population.
Yeah.
So it'll be good for Kalamazoo, good for Benton Harbor, good for Flint, good for Detroit, good for any of the states.
Implement that same idea across the board in our state
Yeah,
to get that just...
Yeah, because I really love the hyper-local thing of having, all these, neighborhood ambassadors. I feel like that's so genius because it's such a way to not only, invest in the local community, but then also to create almost, a chain of communication between, neighbors, ambassadors, and then just, have that ladder all the way up to, city.
Yep.
And, it's just a really great, domino effect. And, I like that a lot.
I imagine it as like a pyramid too. Like the people who live in a city or in a town are the base, right? And like if you're not stable, it doesn't matter what you put on top of it. It's going to crumble, it's going to move, it's going to fall. Like you can't be at the top and then have your like foundation just it just, I mean, only works so long.
Absolutely.
Good luck with your pop-up home.
So big shout out to Nancy, who's organizing the farmers market. C4 loves farmers markets.
I love a farmers market.
Literally eating more.
C4 loves farmers markets.
We do, because literally
we are a proud endorser of a farmers market.
One of the solutions to climate change is eating less meat and eating more vegetables.
And also eating food that's grown and harvested locally, because it's a smaller harvest. It's like, what is it? Less carbon footprint for your food.
So every episode we do a call to action. And maybe that could be our call to action. I don't know if we've done this yet. But Meatless Mondays is a thing. So it's a really great way to kind of get into those types of things without completely changing your life, right? Like it's really hard for us to implement changes and habits. Meatless Monday could just include you deciding to not eat meat for that day. But you could also maybe just decide to take meat out of one meal that you would conventionally have that might not feel like it's necessary, or even just saying no to something or getting something plant-based.
You can do like the Catholics, not eat meat on Fridays too.
There you go. I encourage you to pick a day or pick a specific meal that you know you could substitute out and choose that. A huge part of the reason is water waste, right? Like an incredible amount of water per animal for livestock takes so much more than it does for most plants to be grown. Man. And so that alone, on top of the fact that we should probably most definitely be treating animals a whole lot better than we do. But
nobody wants to eat sad meat.
My little... Don't eat sad meat. And then one day of a week, don't eat meat at all.
Or 2 days.
That's right.
Or 2 days or 7 days. I mean, whatever works for you.
Well, I'm glad to hear you give a call to action. In 2023, C4 has declared 2023 a year of action.
Oh.
Yep. It's
time. I've heard this a lot, but I like hearing it as framed that way.
Yeah, it's a year of action in that so many people have done. We've had so many meetings, so many strategizing, so much planning, so much incubation, so much preparation. All the groundwork is laid. We need to get out and we need to take action. You need to go to the Just Air workshop. You need to get on to c4collaboration.org and find out about C4. You need to find out what local organizations like UCC are doing. They've got a whole environmental wing going, a team going over there.
They're a cool team too.
Climate Justice Warriors, the NAACP's got action going. The Urban League, Michigan Black Expo. We're finding the movement is really getting traction. Big shout out to Governor Gretchen Whitmer and the My Healthy Climate Plan. That My Healthy Climate Plan is deep. It's rich. There's a lot of opportunity. The other piece of the future. We just gotta
milk it for all it's worth, you know.
Right. Well, the other piece of the future.
And while she's here in office.
but if we get started now, there's a lot of green jobs, and that's something that I want to talk about. The future is that people say, well, there's a problem, and we've identified the problem. There's a lot of money to be made in the solution to the problem.
Yeah.
So we. Robert Simmons, one of our ambassadors, he talks about green entrepreneurism.
Yeah.
That a lot of times the people who create the problem, then they also get to come in and clean up the problem, and they make all the money, and the wealth gap continues to grow.
Yeah.
We need the BIPOC community recognize there's a lot of money to be made in all these green jobs that are going to come. There's 80,000 homes in Grand Rapids, 80,000 homes that need new upgraded electrical panels and all electrical appliances, and that doesn't even count the construction that's going on. So get into the trades, get into HVAC.
We love the trades.
Yep, get into electrical work and plumbing and heating and cooling and just everything.
Get training and efficiency when you do that.
Yes, and then you start a company and you become the company that can help people weatherize their homes.
Totally.
And then you're
tell them.
It's a powerful opportunity. That's something else that C4 really pushes is kind of green entrepreneurialism. So it can be green jobs, green careers, and green entrepreneurism.
You might want to team up with Home Repair Services over on Division, because I know they have a lot of workshops already. But if you guys could collaborate collaborate on some job training that might be
Home
cool.
repair is amazing. Building bridges over at the Center for
Oh, yeah,
Transformation.
we love building
amazing.
bridges.
Yep.
They're dope.
Yep.
They are
The
dope.
MTech, you guys went to Neighborhood Summit, I think, right? MTech, that whole trade school down there.
And also, it's like
Amazing.
it's like a pretty accessible location there too, which is really
It is.
awesome.
It is.
Oh, that's so exciting. And I'm really glad that you just said that because Nancy and I are passionate about our work, but we did get these jobs specifically because they wanted to hire brown people. They wanted to hire people of color. They wanted to have this influence in this space. And so there's no reason. I will ring this bell as loud as I can. I am not educated or specifically certified to work in environmental justice. I just really care about it. Ned, as you were more certified as being a history or social science teacher.
Don't be daunted. You're right.
Friendly reminder that I'm an art major, so yeah.
And
also.
Nancy's art major.
That's right. Don't be daunted. People say, I don't have a PhD, or I don't have
Oh.
a master's, or I don't have a BA.
Yeah.
You don't need it. You just get out there and you get in the field and you
Yeah.
you can
And
learn
then,
as you go.
Yeah, and then there's something, I mean, with Erica and myself, I feel like something that we cared about, like, way before getting this job. Like, because we cared about climate change already, like, we were already kind of, like, reading things here and there, like, getting educated on some of the issues. Like, I'm sure you knew, like, the gist of what was going on with this.
It's a whole lot of documentaries, I'm going to be honest.
Oh, yeah. But people...
Just getting in
And
the
a lot of
rabbit
books-
hole,
a
man.
lot of books, too.
Or
Yeah.
having an experience, right? Going to a country where you're seeing this on a large scale, teaching children about these realities of life that we're facing every day, being really connected to indigenous culture, just really caring about your breathing air.
Yeah.
These are
Well,
all
I
reasons
think
to be
about-
involved with climate. Well, I think it's really important to also touch on the excitement of having a space like C4 for people to incubate ideas and to grow and to build their communities in such an effective way. And although this is all very daunting,
It is.
it's a task that's worth investing in. It's a task that's worth taking on, and I'm really appreciative of your leadership skills in order for us to do this and,
Well,
and move
thank you
forward.
very much. I'm
Dude, this
just
is a
trying to do my
great
part.
conversation.
Yeah.
I've enjoyed it myself.
It really is, and I say this every time, I've loved learning about you. Like, as a person, like, your story is super cool and
Well, thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, very inspiring.
very inspiring.
But do we have a cool sign off?
I currently don't. My cool points are out the window, and you got me twisted up in the game. If anybody can tell me what that movie is, I'll give you $5. I will cash app you if you listen to this and tell me what that is.
Oh.
It's from a movie.
Call out for the listeners, like a little Easter
It's
egg.
from a movie.
Okay.
I probably shouldn't have watched it as young as I did.
Well, I don't know what it is, so
no.
I'll
I'll tell you
One
when
of our
we're done.
listeners will get that
Maybe my
lucky
sisters.
$5. Okay.
That's right.
But I don't have a cool sign off. Just the appreciation again for you being here.
Next.
Thanks so much for listening to the Green Rapids podcast with Erica Bolden and Nancy Morales, the hostesses with the mostesses.
And
That's
yourself.
us.
And I'm Ned Andre with the Community Collaboration on Climate Change. C4 wants you to know we're out here in the trenches fighting for climate justice in the city of Grand Rapids. Check us out on c4collaboration.org. It's the easiest way to find out about us. c4collaboration.org. Find out everything you need to know.
And what's the Insta handle?
Same thing, I think.
C4 Grand Rapids.
C4
See
Grand
for Grand
Rapids.
Rapids. Oh,
Got you.
Nancy, you're hired.
Yeah, I love it. That's embarrassing. I don't know my own
Oh,
Insta
I already
handle.
told Ned. I was like,
almost
can
asked
I come
you,
work
what-
with you?
what's the Insta handle?
Yeah, thanks for listening. Thanks for the conversation, Ned. We'll see ya.
Peace out.
Peace.
Peace.